Okay, so imagine this. You're growing up, and you've got two dads basically teaching you completely opposite things about money.
Right. One says, play it safe, study hard, get that good job, save up.
The standard advice. But then the other one is pushing you to really learn how money works, take some risks, build something.
And that's the setup for Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's all about what he learned from his actual dad versus his best friend's dad.
Exactly. And look, this deep dive, it isn't just going to be a summary. We're aiming for something more like a wake-up call, something that might genuinely shift how you think about wealth.
Yeah, because the core difference is baked right into the questions they asked. It's fascinating.
How so?
Well, the book starts by highlighting this. One dad, when faced with something expensive, would just say, I can't afford it. End of story.
Okay.
But the other dad, the rich dad, he'd ask, how can I afford it?
Ah, okay. The totally different framing.
Totally different. And that little switch, that question, that was basically the start of Robert's real financial education. It's really central to everything in the book.
Let's dig into that. So, Robert's actual father, the poor dad,
Hmm.
he was, highly educated, a PhD, worked as a school teacher.
Yeah, very much believed in the traditional path. Good grades lead to a secure job, climb the corporate ladder, get your retirement benefits.
The picture of, well, what society often labels responsible, right? The
Yeah,
secure.
exactly.
Yeah.
But then you've got Rich Dad. This is his best friend Mike's father. Never finished high school, interestingly enough.
Really? Right.
But he owned multiple businesses. He just got how to make money work for him instead of the other way around.
Wow. So, yeah, you can see how those two worlds would just clash constantly for young Robert.
Absolutely. Especially when it came to thinking about limits.
Hmm.
Poor dad saw a closed door. Rich dad saw a problem to solve. Like that, how can I afford it question.
And that leads right into one of the book's biggest takeaways, I think. Rich Dad's idea that the rich don't work for money.
They make money work for them. Yep. Sounds simple, but it's loaded.
It really is. What's the core difference there in practice?
Well, poor dad's world was all about the salary, earning a paycheck. Rich dad was focused on building income streams. Multiple streams.
Right, assets.
Assets, exactly. Because relying just on your job, Kiyosaki argues, makes you totally dependent on your employer. And that dependency limits your freedom. Big time.
You're essentially trading your time for dollars, aren't you?
Pretty much. Versus building something that pays you whether you're actively punching the clock or not.
And that's often the mental block, isn't it? The idea that working differently, maybe even less in terms of hours, could actually lead to more wealth.
For sure. It's about understanding money flow. How it comes in, how you manage it, and crucially, where you direct it.
Direct it towards things that bring more money back in.
Yes. Being the architect, not just, a worker bee in someone else's system.
Which brings us to another key point Rich Dad kept making. It's not how much money you make.
It's how much money you keep.
Yeah.
And that boils down to financial literacy.
Which is strangely absent from a lot of traditional education.
Right. We learn algebra, history, whatever, but not really how to handle credit, taxes, debt, investing. The practical stuff.
The stuff that actually impacts your daily financial life.
Exactly. Financial literacy, as Rich Dad taught it, is about understanding the numbers, reading financial statements, spotting opportunities.
And this is where that huge distinction comes in assets versus liabilities. This was massive for Kiyosaki.
Fundamental. Rich Dad was crystal clear. Assets put money in your pocket. Think stocks paying dividends, rental properties generating cash flow, businesses you own.
Okay, things that generate income.
Right. Liabilities, on the other hand, take money out of your pocket.
Right.
Well, the big house with the big mortgage, the fancy car payment, consumer debt, things that drain your resources month after month.
Even if they feel like status symbols.
Especially then sometimes.
Yeah.
And not understanding that basic difference, that's what Kiyosaki says keeps people stuck in the rat race.
Working harder and harder just to pay for the liabilities.
Exactly. It's less about your income level and more about what you do with that income. Are you buying assets or liabilities?
That mindset difference between the dads is just, it's huge. Poor dad. Seek job security. Rich dad. Seek financial freedom.
Two totally different operating systems. It affects everything, every decision.
And it comes back to those questions, doesn't it?
It really does. I can't afford that. That just shuts down your brain, right?
Yeah, conversation over.
But how can I afford that? That forces your brain to start working, looking for solutions, getting creative.
It opens possibilities. So you have to ask yourself, which question do you tend to ask first?
It's a powerful self-reflection point because so often our financial choices are driven by emotion, not logic.
Like fear and greed, as the book mentions.
Exactly. Fear of being broke makes people cling to jobs they hate. Then maybe greed or just wanting to feel better makes them spend money on, well, liabilities, often.
To keep up appearances or just for that temporary hit of pleasure?
And it becomes this cycle. Work hard out of fear, spend impulsively, need to work harder.
The rat race, again.
Yep. Rich Dad's advice was to master those emotions. Use logic when it comes to money. Be intentional.
That intentionality extends to skills too, right? Rich Dad's advice wasn't just about money, but about learning.
Yeah, he advised Robert to work to learn, not just to earn. Chase skills, not necessarily promotions within one narrow field.
Like what kind of skills?
Business critical ones. Selling, marketing, managing people, understanding finance, investing, negotiating, becoming well-rounded in how business works.
A bit like being a generalist in business acumen.
Sort of, yeah. A jack of all trades in the sense of understanding the whole picture. This is really different from Poor Dad's view.
How so? Poor Dad valued.
Specialization.
Yeah.
Become an expert in one thing, a doctor, a lawyer, a pilot. Deep knowledge in a narrow field.
Which is also valuable, of course, but Rich Dad was teaching something else.
He was teaching entrepreneurship, really. How to build the system, how to build the ladder, not just how to climb someone else's. The difference between being an employee and being an owner.
Okay, let's circle back to assets and liabilities, because you mentioned this can really change things for people.
It really can. If you only take one thing away, this might be it. The rich focus on acquiring assets. Things that generate income passively or semi-passively.
Rental properties, dividend stocks, royalties, businesses that run without you being there 24/7.
Exactly. Things that put money in your pocket.
Hmm.
The trap is that many people, especially poor and middle class, buy things they think are assets, but...
They're actually liabilities.
Right. The classic example is often the primary home. People think of it as their biggest asset.
But unless you're renting out rooms or something, it's mostly taking money out, isn't it? Mortgage, taxes, insurance, upkeep.
Precisely. Or the new car.
Yeah.
Kiyosaki's definition is brutally simple. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out.
It seems so straightforward when you put it like that. Why is it so hard for people to grasp or implement?
Well, societal pressure plays a role. What we're told success looks like. Emotional attachment is another factor. And again, lack of real financial education.
We're kind of conditioned to want the house, the car.
Yeah, without always analyzing the true financial impact, but building that asset column, focusing on acquiring things that pay you. That's the key, whether you have a high-paying job or not.
It's about what your money does for you.
Exactly. And the wealthy play a different game, not just in making money, but in protecting and spending it too.
Right. You mentioned structures, like corporations.
Yeah, that's a big one Rich Dad taught Robert. Using legal structures like corporations or LLCs.
Why? What's the advantage?
Several, but a huge one is taxes and asset protection. Think about taxes. A typical employee earns money, gets taxed heavily on it first, and then tries to live on what's left.
Yep, sounds familiar.
A corporation, though, earns revenue, then it pays all its legitimate business expenses, then it pays taxes on the profit that remains.
So it spends before it gets taxed on that portion.
Essentially, yes. It's a different sequence with significant advantages. Plus, corporations offer liability protection, separating personal assets from business risks.
And this stuff is like almost never taught in school.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's part of that hidden knowledge the wealthy often understand and utilize. It's crucial for preserving and growing wealth long term.
Okay, so knowing all this is one thing, but doing it is another. The book talks about mental blocks, right?
Absolutely. Rich Dad pointed out 5 big ones that stop people. Fear is number 1.
Fear of losing money.
Yeah, the fear of risk, of failure. Then there's cynicism. Doubt, that won't work for me. Finding reasons why something can't be done.
Okay, fear, cynicism.
Laziness, which isn't just sitting on the couch, but often means staying busy with other things to avoid tackling your finances. Bad habits like spending everything you earn or more.
The keeping up with the Joneses trap.
Definitely. And finally, arrogance. Thinking you know it all. Being unwilling to learn new things or admit you might be wrong about money.
Those are powerful roadblocks.
They really are. But the key lesson from Rich Dad wasn't about avoiding failure. It was about facing it, learning from it.
He basically said every successful person has lost money, made mistakes.
Every single one. They messed up, faced criticism, had setbacks. The difference is they didn't let it stop them. They treated failure as feedback, as a lesson. They learned and adjusted.
They didn't see it as final.
Not at all. Which leads right to the most crucial part.
Yeah.
You have to take action.
Right. Reading books like this one, watching videos, attending seminars, it's great for knowledge,
It
but
doesn't build wealth on its own.
yeah,
Knowledge is just potential power.
applied knowledge is real power.
That's it. Rich Dad's message was pretty blunt. Don't wait for perfection. Just start.
Do something.
Yeah. Buy one share of stock. Start a small side business. Analyze a potential rental property. Make your first move, however small. Learn by doing.
Instead of waiting for the perfect time, like Poor Dad tended to do.
Exactly. Rich Dad believed you create the time. Because every day you wait, you're essentially choosing to stay dependent. That's a strong way to put it.
Well, it highlights the urgency, doesn't it? Taking control requires action.
So wrapping this up, Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't really your typical how-to-budget finance book, is it?
Not at all. It's much more about mindset, about fundamentally changing how you think about money, seeing it as a tool to build freedom, not just something you earn and spend.
It's really a challenge to how many of us were raised, what we were taught about money.
It absolutely is. It's like a call to wake up financially. And the empowering part is you don't need to have had a literal rich dad. You just need to cultivate that rich mindset.
Which can be learned.
Totally learnable by anyone.
So the question for you, listening, is which internal dad are you paying attention to right now? The one whispering, play it safe.
Or the one asking, how can we be smarter about this? Because honestly, in the world we live in now, financial intelligence isn't just nice to have.
It feels more like a necessity.
It really does. It's becoming essential for survival, let alone thriving. So maybe revisit the book, sure, but more importantly,
Start building that asset column today, even small steps. Because that road to financial freedom, you don't just walk it, you have to build it.
one smart decision at a time.